Hey, what's up guys? Bob here. Welcome to a tutorial on how to essentially just get completely up to speed with My Hero 1's Justice. 1, not 2, I know. It might seem weird to not be covering 2 because 2 is already out, but to go along with the Let's Play that me and Brandon are currently doing, I'm assuming that video has gone up first. Be sure to check that for the actual start of the Let's Play, but this video is more or less to get you guys caught up to speed on how My Hero plays. There's a lot this game does not go over, and I also feel like there's just too much scattered old material for this game that I figured, yeah, let's go ahead and just make something a little more centralized. If I ever, at any point, get anything wrong or I miss something, I apologize. I've been playing this game for less than a month, but I've also been studying the shit out of this game, so, you know, it's probably inevitable I'm going to miss details, so by all means, if you want to add stuff in the comments, go ahead, and if there's enough, I might make a part 2 to this, who knows. So, where are we starting? Well, let's start from the absolute top and make our way down. I'm going to try to keep these things as sorted as possible, as in like categorized, so you guys can just jump around if you ever want to find something. Timestamps down in the description below. Let's go ahead and get started. So, as you can clearly tell, I mean, this is very surface level. My Hero 1's Justice is a 3D arena fighter. I know you probably couldn't figure it out yourself, but hey, we had to start somewhere. So yeah, 3D arena fighter. If I were to describe this game, it's like this really strange hybrid of like Naruto Storm meets like either Kill la Kill IF or Jump Force. It's a really strange combination. It's made by neither of those companies. This is made by a company called Viking, and it definitely made a pretty good impression. This game is pretty rock solid from the ground up. There's not too many open seams as you would see in like something like Jump Force or obviously Burning Blood, you know, both IPs from Spike Chunsoft. So in terms of your button layout, well, you got a few things to work with. So this game is extremely simplified. Like, even among arena fighters, this game has a little bit lower of an execution barrier to get into than usual, which isn't saying a ton, but I feel like I should point out regardless. So, this could be all PS4 notations, by the way. If you're playing on Xbox or Switch or PC, I apologize in advance, but I think PlayStation probably has a universal enough, like, recognized button notation issue to be too much of an issue. The community has tried to come up with the universal notation system before. Didn't quite work, so I'm not saying that, but I will tell you in advance. So, square is your melee attacks. Triangle is Quirk 1. Circle is Quirk 2. And then going from there, you have R1, which is guard, L1, which is your dash, X, which is jump, L2 and R2 are your assist buttons. Yeah, no, this is essentially like your typical arena fighter, except for the fact that you don't have like a light heavy. You have strictly light button, as in melee attack, and then you have 2 attacks for essentially special attacks. They essentially offer like your straight up like Street Fighter fireball motions. It's pretty good. It also comes with a bit more functionality than what you'd expect. So in terms of the UI, well, it's fairly obvious, but there's a little bit more going on. So top yellow bar there is health, middle one is meter, which is practically only used for supers in this game. It'll be fleshed out a little bit more in One Justice 2, and R1 is your guard meter. Yes, you have a guard meter in this game. As opposed to a lot of other 3D arena fighter games, if you hold down the guard button, as you can see, it starts going down gradually. And you know, if the opponent hits you, it's going to start taking chunks off of it as well. For example, if you look at Bakugo's green gauge, yeah, it's going down pretty substantially with every single hit. This will feed later into the metagame for how this goes about, but yeah, that's essentially how that falls into place. Now, going from there, we're just covering basic buttons and universal functions right now. Going from there, every character has access to the following: a straight up unblockable move, not throws. These aren't always a throw animation. There's a lot of characters in this game where it's like just an unblockable strike or something to that effect. You have armor attacks, which can be usually more than what you would just immediately have with your tilt square attack, and generally an easy mode combo. If you play on the normal style setting, if you keep mashing the melee button, you will do an extended auto combo. However, if you play manual, which I personally recommend because you can get a lot more stylized combos as well as stuff that's more optimal, it'll continue with an automatic light combo going up to the air. I realize I can actually switch this to the main menu, so this is what happens when you just keep mashing it. Pre-automatic, you can easily do this with the actual straight up controls. Like, for example, now I'm back on manual. Exact same combo. I think it might actually do more damage. I'm going to look into if it actually does more damage on average if you do it on manual versus normal. Anyway, unrelated. So, My Hero 1's Justice is a game that primarily, kind of like most arena fighters, but depending on what you're playing, is a game that revolves around a couple of different basic things. Neutral combos, and unique to this game especially, reset combos. Oh boy, the resets in this game are a little bit ridiculous. If you don't know what a reset is, it's where essentially you cut a combo a little bit early in exchange for an opportunity / a very fast mix-up into a bigger combo, and then you can really start slice off chunks off the opponent's health bar. Some characters in this game really take advantage of essentially like coin flip death combos in terms of the damage they're able to dole out. So yeah, the community is messing around with stuff like that for the second game. So take what you will for going into One's Justice 2, but that's just what I know of offhand. The resets in this game are pretty good. Now I guess one other thing I do want to mention, and this is more like not really like a gameplay thing, it's more like a complaint thing, is that the game can be a little bit floaty at times, and I guess like, yeah, it can be at times depending on what the hell you're doing, but for my money, the game really speeds up with certain characters like All Might or various other characters like Gran Torino, shit like that. So it's not even like, you don't even notice it sometimes. In fact, like, usually you're so intent on the opponent that you don't even notice the floatiness anymore. The only way I can think of that the floatiness would be noticeable is if like you do get a wall combo, and then yeah, now you're plastered to the wall. So I guess that's a way that it could come across, but you know, details. I just thought I'd bring that up. So that's more or less it for the basic functions. Yeah, no, I'll go into supers in a little bit, but those are essentially like the bare basics of what each character is able to do. I guess I should mention that you do have a double jump. I figured that might be worth mentioning. You can go from a neutral jump into a controlled directional jump. I guess I should mention that if nothing else. And yeah, we'll talk more about details on stuff like dashing as we go forward, as well as super attacks. But I figured this is enough to get you guys off the ground. Just practice movement at first. Just feel comfortable with like the weighty controls if you want to. And yeah, we can move on now. So the two main ways of getting through the opponent's guard is to either make them deplete their guard gauge, or to hit them with a blockable attack. So for example, if I were to just kind of keep hammering Bakugo, there we go. It's not nearly as intimidating as you think, by the way. Or just using an unblockable. Those are the two primary ways of getting through an opponent's guard. If there's any more offhand, then that's probably some specific tech I don't know of offhand. But those are the best ways of going through it. Now, in terms of the neutral play, or I guess as I put in my notes, opening the opponent up, which is not inaccurate, generally that comes down to a couple things, which is straight up neutral, you know, controlling space, using long-range tools. There's also straight up spacing, which, I mean, I didn't put that in my notes, I should probably cover that. A lot of attacks in My Hero are actually very committal. This really makes you think about what you're tossing out at any given point. So for example, like if I were to whiff Midoriya's air armor move, that takes I'm literally holding guard the entire time. And look how long it takes for me to start my guard animation. It gets even worse with something like, oh, it's a high recovery one. That one's not too bad. That one takes about a year. If you whiff of a throw, yeah, that also takes a good amount of time. It's to partly go with like how floaty the controls are at times, and it's a little more grounded in that regard. So that way you're able to like easily like pick opportunities to whiff punish and all that fun stuff. And the last way of getting through or opening your opponent up, I guess, is armor attacks. This is one of your big neutral tools. There's a bit of like a triangle between melee attacks, armor attacks, and unblockable attacks. Well, that's not it. It was this guy. We'll talk about that more as I get into like the specifics of armor attacks, but those are generally the ways you go about it. Spacing, neutral, and armor attacks if you're able to read the situation and you can get damage. So the basics of dashing. Now, dashing is more or less one of your best neutral tools in any situation. It allows you to cover space very quickly, especially on the ground. You can't dash omnidirectionally in the air, but you do have a dash straight towards your opponent. Pretty good to keep that in mind. There is no free air dashing in this game. This is not Dissidia. Probably for the best. You are able to hold your dash for a certain amount of time until you automatically exit out of it. I don't think there's there's no real specific like like meter that shows you how much stamina you have. Some characters also have better dashes than others, like for example, Ida, when he gets powered up, has infinite dashing and is super damn fast with it. So definitely important to keep in mind. It's not one of those things that allows each character to feel more fleshed out. Like for example, Midoriya has a pretty average dash. Muscular has the worst dash in the game because it's incredibly slow and doesn't last long, and so on. Yeah, it's just a universal trait a lot of these characters have. Now, one thing you do want to keep in mind is something important is that you can dash, or you can jump out of your dash at any given point in time. It's a little sluggish. It's not instantaneous. It's not like a straight cancel, but you do have the option for it. So, if you want that extra layer of mobility, you do have this option. Do try to keep in mind, if you feel like you're gonna run into something, you can probably jump out of it. Yeah, just general things you want to keep on the back burner. Oh yeah, one super critical thing you want to keep in mind. It actually takes a long ass time to start guarding when you exit a dash. So if you end up using dash kind of recklessly, it's not like a get out of jail free card. You really want to be careful with how you handle your dashing, because yeah, like I'm literally holding guard like as soon as before I'm even done dashing, and it still takes a while to just straight up come out. Definitely, it's a way of like making the game not superly defensive. This is definitely a good choice in my book. Just bear that in mind. You don't really want to use dashing as a straight defensive tool. You want to use it as like neutral, as well as like approaching and stuff like that. So keep all this stuff in mind. Now, as I said before, dashing is one of your best neutral tools. Period. It allows you free movement. It's very hard for the opponent most of the time to hit you from over this range if you're going from side to side, as well as utilizing fully assists and stuff like that to really keep positioning strong in your to really keep positioning strong in your favor, as well as jumping, keeping safe. Yeah, those are essentially your super basic options for neutral. Now, armor attacks, as I mentioned before, they're essentially one of your cornerstone options with any character. They allow you to soak up an attack as well as, well, not even just one attack. Like, they actually soak up multiple hits of attacks. So, they're able to get net you damage as well as make a bit of a hard read on the opponent. Although, armor does beat multiple options, so it's not really so much of a hard read, if you know what I mean. Yeah, as you can see with that, you just straight up go through all melee options your opponent has. This is very important. It allows you to, it gives you like a super good defensive option, as well as, you know, that really good neutral tool if you think your opponent's gonna just approach pressing a button. Just back out of this guy, no big deal. Now, one thing about this though is that it does kind of lose to like armor break moves. Let me see if I can wake him up. Yeah, as you can see with that, the armor just unblockables do just completely shred the super armor of the armor attacks. So this is really important if you're getting to this kind of situation. It's not really advised because most super armor moves are super unsafe on block. Especially Bakugo, he does have some. So, but if you end up making a read going for unblockable, and an opponent tries to press a button instead, you can beat him in that regard. So it's a bit of a, you know, give and take. I guess that does kind of bring up the whole triangle I mentioned with the melee attack, super armor move, and the unblockable. Because the melee attack will be the unblockable. The unblockable will go through the armor of the super armor move, and the super armor move will eat up the melee attack of, you know, the melee. So it's a really neat little triangle that actually was come up with the first game. You wouldn't expect this game to have something like that, but, you know, here we are. Right, I think we probably got a little too sidetracked with that because I did want to cover like the neutral options of this game. So let's go ahead and cover the other buttons that you have instead of, you know, just the square button, which is triangle and circle, aka Quirk 1 and Quirk 2. These both essentially operate like easy input special attacks from Street Fighter or other such games. Although I think Street Fighter is probably the most apt comparison. Especially with Deku here. Deku is just straight up like a Ryu type character because he has a fireball. He has essentially an uppercut. I'm pretty sure this is invincible to some capacity. I'm actually fairly certain about that. If not, he does have this option. And he's got It's essentially like a Donkey Punch move, or Donkey Punch? No, this is not Smash Bros. No, Donkey Kick attack that Ryu would have. So he really goes to serve as like the basis of this game, as well as, you know, being a sort of Ryu archetype with the fireballs. By the way, these fireballs are ridiculously strong in this game, unrelated. In general, with these characters, triangle is usually like your long range option or your like slightly closer in, weaker option of 2 buttons. Circle is more dedicated, like the power attacks. Like, for example, Detroit Smash with Deku if he uses Circle. Depending on what angle you hit, you will get a Wallsplat. Actually, it'd be easy if I just combo into it. Well, if it was far back, you'd probably get it. But anyway, yeah. Now, of course, very important to note is that also, if you keep in mind your, if you note your command list, you will also see that you have tilt versions of every single one of these moves. So, for example, neutral circle with Midoriya will give you, you know, the Detroit Smash. But if you do the tilt version, you will actually get this uppercut. I'm not actually sure what Daytona Smash. Yeah, let's go with that. I'll just call it the uppercut, honestly. But yeah, no, every single character has an option like this. Like Bakugo with Circle, I believe he gets another unblockable move, which is sort of like a command grab, etc. So yeah, definitely experiment with your characters. However, Midoriya does not have a different tilt option with the Fireball. This is very important to keep in mind. Experiment with your characters, and you'll see the results. Also, this does essentially give every character like 4, like essentially up to 4, if not more, because of other circumstances, special attacks. So, yeah, I have options to play with. Yes, this part. So, I guess speaking on that, I didn't realize this was next to my notes. Yeah, certain quirks can be charged. I'm gonna cut back to a different character that has this a little more easy to visualize, I guess. Right, I should probably explain this right now. There's essentially 3 different kinds of charging in this game, sorta. So with Todoroki here, as an example, if you're to press the triangle button once, you spawn an ice pillar. However, if you're to hold it down, you spawn a wall of ice. Actually, it looks a little bit better like this. It goes pretty much full screen wherever Bakugo is. In fact, let me knock him back a little bit more, so this has a little bit more impact. Yep. It's a bit slow, so don't try and abuse it too much. And also exclusive to him is that if you hold triangle and then press the direction, you can actually traverse that with the ice wall. Exclusive to him, I don't believe any other characters has a movement option like this, or option of the special attacks. But yes, that's an example of like charge type moves you have in this game. And your second type of charging attack is essentially something you find a little more like traditionally. Where if you're to do tilt circle with all for one, he shoots these tendrils out, wait for it to disengage eventually. Whereas if you hold down the input for circle, he holds back, charges it, and it gains different properties where it becomes unblockable, as well as becoming a lot bigger. So that's another example of, you know, the more traditional type of charging you'd find in fighting games, where it alters the timing of the move. You typically would use something like this in other fighting games to like go throw off parry timings or something like that. You know, like see your traditional smash attacks or whatever. But that's essentially the other second type. I guess I can actually show this off with all for one, can't I? Well, nah, it'd be easier with Midoriya. And last up for charging attacks is something that is a little more unique to this game. Actually, it's not something you would see unless like you're playing, I guess, Street Fighter to a degree. If you're playing like Guile, I'm calling this one stockpiling. I mean, wow, I guess when I put it like that, it does just kind of actually make sense considering One For All, doesn't it? Oof, or yeah. Anyway, so after holding attack, that's a bit of a tricky one to explain. This one took a little while to figure it out, actually. So essentially what it means is that after you can hold down a button in order to charge it up, and then, but after that you don't have to keep holding the button anymore. As soon as your character glows one time, like usually green in these instances, if you press the button again, you show a much stronger version of the attack you just used. Now for Midoriya here, this goes for both of his triangle and circle buttons. If you do press triangle one time, he does the basic finger flick, the fireball. If you hold it down and then fire it again, out comes the second one. And again, you can like tap it once and hold it again to charge it, or you can just tap it once to fire the fireball, hold it afterwards, wait for the green flash, and then fire it again. And yes, of course, it does go for Detour Smash as well, where you can hold it afterwards, and it gains a little something like this. That wasn't it. I had to throw him out the corner. It does this. Juicy. So yeah, this essentially gives Midoriya a little bit more flexibility in his combos. If there's any other types of charging in this game, I'm not immediately aware of it. I'm sorry. Again, leave your comments down below if I miss it. I'm sorry. But to the best of my knowledge, those are the three main types of charging. I would barely even consider Shoto's option a type of charge, honestly, but you know what I mean. So there's a couple options to actually work with this. Like, at first you think, well, the only way to do it is if you do the fireball first, hold the charge, or as in keep holding the quirk button afterwards, and then fire it again afterwards, right? There's a little old trick in fighting games called input buffering, which essentially allows you to mask action into another action. So, for example, if I were to do something completely unrelated, or no, actually, I could probably just do it like this: throw a fireball, but hold circle afterwards. That way, press it again, and you get the supercharged version of it. Actually, I realized that would probably be easiest to show it off like this. Yep. This is a really old tactic. I see this a lot in like Tekken for masking like directional inputs. So that's how I adopted this idea. But this is essentially a really good way of forming the stockpile. What did I just say? Stockpile. An easy way to do it would actually probably be off of like a combo or something. Yep, what I'm doing is I'm holding triangle right as a sledgehammer attack with Midoriya connects. That way I'm able to just keep the charge stored and I'm able to rip it afterwards. Also, yes, you're able to just kind of hold both buttons and charge both at the same time. So, for example, triangle turns into the fireball, giant fireball, and circle, he goes flying to the goddamn moon. Look at that. I love momentum physics like that. So yeah, a little bit more of a unique mechanic that this game actually presents. Again, the best example I could possibly think of to relate to other fighting games is with like Guile's like Sonic Boom. But even then, this is way different because you're not restricted to a movement or even holding a button whatsoever. You just, like, you hold it, you charge it, you're done. I could have showed this with the Awful One earlier, but it's way easier to show with Midoriya because he is your basic vanilla boy. I guess the easiest way I can also show this off is if I like do it with an arm move deliberately. I can hold the triangle button and release it and press it again afterwards in order to get the fireball out. Do with this as you will, or like mess with your individual character's strengths. Like, I know this is super easy with Awful One using like his aura attack in order to charge like his fireball. So just mess with your own individual characters and see what your weird charge effects come up with. Now, as for specifics about the Unblockable, or I guess more namely the R1 square, because not all characters in this game have multiple Unblockables. Like, for example, Midoriya only has one. Bakugo has 2. I'm pretty sure other characters some might actually have up to 3 if I were to put the time into look, but that's besides the point. So, Midoriya here, his only unblockable is R1 square. Now, of course, you might immediately think that, yeah, no, like, it's always gotta be a throw. Incorrect. I know I already said it earlier in this video, but bear with me. Every single character in this game does have an unblockable, but they vary wildly in usage. Like, for example, Midoriya's here is a forward grab. Awful One has a ground shockwave. All Might has like a straight punch that just goes to the opponent. It has good spacing, etc. Depending on like the character and their unblockable, that could really like help them be able to open up opponents that much more. One other key trait though is that most of these unblockables, I say most, we get to some fun stuff in One's Justice 2, but that's another day, is that most of these are reactable. As in, like, you see the red flash, you have about, what is that, like 25, 30 frames to react, maybe? It's, like, also not the hugest attack in the world, so it's not nearly that big a deal. Some of these actually allow for combo extensions using the L1 dash mechanic. Midoriya does not get that, but, I mean, if you do it, like, you're able to get some good Oki, so pretty good, but you know, some characters can just get further extensions. Like, again, Shoto is able to get a complete combo off of it. He barely loses any damage either. It's kind of damn nuts, but yeah, no. I guess speaking of Shadow, like his unblockable is also like a 360 ground shockwave. Not like a ground shockwave, it's like a 360 wall of ice. So yeah, definitely play with your individual characters unblockable. See how quick it is, how much range it has, how you can work it into like your offensive game. Like for example, if I make Bakugo block, I can then use the visual noise of the assist in order to go ahead and go for an unblockable. Make it even harder to react. These are very basic things. If you play a fighting game at all in your life, you've probably seen this before, but it's always good to back pocket these ideas, and it's just another layer to this game's somewhat decent depth. Now, as for assists, well, assists in this game work very similar to how they did in, like... The best example I can think of is, like, Naruto, Storm, and Fighters, but in this game, you're able to call them out to essentially combo break the opponent. Assists in this game, since I mentioned that they are a little bit like the ones in Dragon Ball Fighters, operate in that they are able to A, extend combos, and B, offer lockdown pressure, as well as neutral assistance and, well, exclusive to this game. I think one other game might have it, I'm not sure offhand, is that they can be used to combo break. Each of these does have their own function, and the way they're sort of kind of balanced is that they take a while to recharge. Like if I were to set my sidekick gauge to not be constant, you'll note that it takes a little while for Shoto's meter to go back up. So you kind of have to pick and choose your spots if you want to have them for like defensive play, getting in through the neutral, etc. And of course, each one is also wildly like different in terms of how they're used or what they're good at. They can all essentially work for each of the roles, but some are definitely way better for some situations than others. One thing I do want to mention, however, I feel like this is kind of important, and maybe there's more to this than I'm aware of, but this is from what I've observed, is that it seems like using an assist for the three other tools, which is, using them for neutral, using them for combo extensions, or using them for block pressure, it only saps off half of the assist gauge for each character. Whereas if you're getting hit and you use them to combo break the opponent, it consumes that bar completely. There's definitely going to be like a metagame revolved around that. I'm not sure what options will be to take care of that immediately, except for like some 360 hitting options. I know that. Dropping a combo early, baiting it, etc. There's definitely ways to work around that. Work with them as you see fit. For example, I know Muscular's freaking assist is completely armored, so it's gonna combo break regardless unless you block it. Yeah, so definitely keep all these factors in mind. I guess moving on to one of our last basic functions of this game is the supers. Yeah, no, I saved the supers for this far into the goddamn guide. Yeah, yeah. So, these are coming off your R1 move. Oh, by the way, yes, some of these things also do come off your guard button, like throws, etc. So, your first one is your R1 triangle, which is your level 1 move. These are generally your supreme bread and butter supreme bread and butter moves in terms of like damage and flexibility. Then you have your R1 circle, which is your level 2s, and in this game tanks the length of some freaking anime episodes, my god. And then, oh by the way, these are called your plus ultras. You have your plus ultra 1, plus ultra 2, and then your EX plus ultras, which is, to do these you need 2 assists on your team, and you need to have 3 bars. If you're doing online matches or local matches, you'll probably have the 2 assists anyway, unless doing some things in story mode, or mission mode, I guess. Anyway, you hold R1, you press triangle circle at the same time. Jeez, that does damage. So yeah, doing your R1, your EX plus Ultra will consume all 3 of your bars. I don't think you need to have your assist at maximum for each of the bars, because that would be a bit excessive. Also, like, it would be, why would you do that? However, again, this does dump a lot of meter for a lot of damage. Like you saw, I took off like 75% of Bakugo's health bar. It's decent. Yeah, the only thing in this game that's unfortunate is that these are based off of your level 1s, as in your assists come in and do your level 1s, you do your level 1, and depending on the character, this can get really finicky. Like, for example, like All for Ones and All Might's supers would probably clash with each other because of like the shockwave versus like the very short range punches, you know, and so on. Like, you really want to be flexible, and try to do these like as close to the wall as possible. Maybe if you can help it. Depends on the situation. Again, be careful. Okay, next up before we move on to combos is your basic ass pressure game. So these are really small, like, so when I say pressure, I mean of course like you pressing an offense, like if you're trying to get in. These are what you essentially want to use in order to just get in and start messing up your opponent. So again, let's have Bakugo set to guard. So Bakugo here is guarding, and or we're spacing, and all of a sudden I'm able to get in. Or there's an opening and he has cooldown and I'm able to get in and do stuff. What are my options? So, the basic one you'd probably think of is run in and make your opponent guess between a melee attack and unblockable. Understandable, because this would be like the base coin flip scenario in order to open up your opponent. There's a lot more we can do than that, however. If you're approaching your opponent and you're expecting them to do a melee hit or a melee attack to beat out like an unblockable, or they think they can counter hit out you out of something, running in and doing an armor move, this isn't 100% recommended, but hey, it's certainly an option, so why the hell not? Or you can cover yourself with an assist, and all of a sudden, hey, bang, bada bing, you're in. So yeah. Another example of pressure in this game is the Oki game, aka Okizeme, aka Wake Up game. I believe Okizeme actually literally translates to something revolving getting off the ground in Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong about that. Anyway, so for example, majority here does have one pretty good Oki scenario. What I personally feel is off of his throw. While it doesn't allow you to combo or anything, you can dash in and make your opponent respect your wake up a little bit. Again, they do have options like doing... Oh, well, God, I didn't even talk about that. Fuck. I forgot something. Right, I kind of forgot to mention this. Your level 2 supers in this game, I believe... Now, I haven't fact-checked this yet, but I've definitely seen it happen before. Have at least a little bit of invincibility on startup, so... I'm not sure if they're like Dragon Punch levels of invincibility, but I have definitely had instances where I would be trying to hit the opponent on wake up, and they would do a level 2 and it'd go clean right through my attack. So I'm like 99% certain that level 2s in this game have invincible startup. If anyone wants to fact check me and say I'm wrong, again, comments are open if you don't want to be a dickhead. But assuming I'm right in this scenario, that means that you'd essentially have access to like a level, like a Dragon Punch wake up, which is, you know, pretty good. Let's throw like a wake up level 3 in fighters. Pretty decent option. Not universal, definitely highly unsafe, because I mean you block something like this, yeah, you're open for like 12 years. Dude, I was holding guard the entire time. It's pretty freaking bad. And also, when your opponent's getting off the ground, you know, there's a basic, like, armor attack, etc., etc. But, yeah, so a pressure situation like this, if you read they're going to wake up jump, there's options off of that. You can pressure them further. You can do, like, an air unblockable if your character has access to it. You know, it's a basic, like, vortex of options that you'd have when you get into a situation like that. So, of course, Bakugo here is just going to wake up and guard. So, a basic option would be just waking up, apparently my throw going through his iframes. Let's ignore that. That was one thing I do want to note. When your opponent's getting up off the ground, they have a lot of invincibility frames. Like, pretty much that entire time he was getting up off the ground, until he was guarding, fully invincible. So, be very wary about that. I'm not sure if you can hit meaties in this game. You probably could. I'm not thinking about it, but, you know, whatever. Just be careful about that. Oh, right. One small thing. If you do... I probably should have mentioned this way sooner. Sorry, this wasn't in my notes. If you press jab from a distance, or if you press jab up close, you get a basic jab, like with the melee button. Press from a distance, your opponent will dash in a little bit first, and then do it. Easy spacing stuff. It allows for, you know, easy course correction. If you're like slightly outside of range, you know, it's pretty good. Yeah, just figure I'd mention that as a good little side note. Right, time to feed you guys the information you're probably here for in Combo Town. Okay, we'll talk about it. So, combos in One's Justice, they are pretty obscene. They can do some really, really good stuff, and they're also pretty damn flashy. If you've seen an arena fighter before, yes, combos tend to get pretty fun. So starting from the ground floor, yes, if you keep mashing your melee button, if you're on manual mode, you will get a tiny little auto combo. It's something special to write home about, but hey, the option is there. If you know literally nothing about your character, you'll probably have something like serviceable with this option. Like, for example, Shoto's auto combo will actually get a wall splat, I'm pretty sure. Dobby's is completely fucking nuts, etc. You know, keep these options in mind as you move forward, and good things will happen to you. Now, the real life and soul of combos in this game comes from your dash canceling. This is where it gets fun. Think of dash canceling kind of like how chakra dash canceling works in like Naruto Storm. It's essentially very similar, except for a lot of like changes in the rules. But yeah, so you have this jab string here with the melee attacks using Midoriya, right? So what you want to do is you want to press your dash button right after you land the third hit. So something like this. And Midoriya will jump after them. Now, from here, you can probably see where this is going. Dash cancel, and to lights. Timing will vary depending on like what character you're using if you go for something super basic like this, but for the most part, that is kind of how your combos will break down for the most part. This is now like the bedrock of how you work these combos in this game. So time to build upwards. Now, most of the time, this game is pretty flexible in the special attacks actually. So, for example, like special canceling, you can cancel a lot of like melee attacks into quirk abilities. So, for example, I can do melee, quirk 2. I can do light, quirk 1. I say lights because it's kind of like my default mindset, because fighting games, but you probably get why I'm going with it. So yeah, this game is pretty flexible with how you're able to assemble these for the most part. You're able to get a little more fancy. So for example, our Detroit Smash here. Let's go ahead and do some more practical application with it, shall we? So do this and end with the air version. Oh right, Quirks also have air versions. I don't think I mentioned that before. Just bear with me. Now, truthfully, you're actually able sometimes with some characters to chain like multiple quirks into each other. Like, actually, I can just go ahead and show this really fast. These load times murder the Avdol. Right, so one of Shoto's like Brandenburg combos usually involves doing light, quirk 1, quirk 2, and because he's frozen, I can get another jab string out into his basic combo options. One of his special quirks is that he can essentially like chain quirk 2 into quirk 1. And or various versions of it, like his tilt quirk into tilt quirk 2 into quirk 2 into quirk 1. So that's a really good basic version of his combo options. Right, so you're pretty flexible with your special attack most of the time. So now with that, you can also get a little creative and start throwing in some extra stuff into your combos. For example, some instances you're able to chain your tilt squares into these examples. You can also chain like your other tilt attacks, like Midoriya's tilt circle, which is this, the uppercut. You can chain into this by doing square, and then tilt square. By the way, when I'm saying tilt, you can literally tilt it in whatever direction you want. Luckily, this game's not too picky with how you do it. You just need to like have pretty sharp inputs for the most part. Like you can't just mash it out generally, but details. And you can also start chaining like your armor attacks into quirk moves. So for example, I can do something like dumb like this. Well, no, that doesn't work. Ignore that. Right, okay, I guess you can't do it into his neutral ones. But something you can do is you can cancel his tilt square into his tilt circle, which essentially gives you this wild uppercut. So, it kind of works with the whole momentum of it, just details, animation things. So yeah, that is essentially one of Midoriya's, like, key combo routes. You can convert melee attacks into armor attacks, into quirk attacks, and then you can start dash canceling your quirk attacks. You can also dash cancel out of this if you want. So yeah, we'll talk about Wallsplats a little bit later, but details. As in right now, I guess, actually, that was next to my notes. How about that shit? Right, so sometimes in these combos, you'll also end up getting Wallsplats. Wallsplats in this game are, well, they're actually not really like a lot of other games now that I think about it. They're like a weird sort of pseudo stun state. which I will also talk about later on. God damn it. So, Wallsplats in this game, they're a little like Tekken, but not nearly to that extreme. Like, you're able to get this, and because I know just him at a point I want, yeah, you essentially have something like that. The Wallsplats will transition into the wall sections of the game. A lot of levels have stuff like this, so bear that in mind. They have their own rules. I'm not gonna get too into it, but you temporarily go onto the side of the wall, and then this game gets a little bit funky if you start getting against the walls of the other floor. So be careful. But yeah, the only thing about Wallsplats is that you can't get multiple Wallsplats in one combo. So for example, oh, I'm not nearly good enough to do this, but I wonder if I could possibly attempt to land this. I wonder. So Detroit Smash by itself will result in a wall splat. Right, so do it again to the floor. As you can see, he didn't end up face down into the floor again. This time he ended up just spiked on the floor. Slight difference there, so as a result, you can't chain this over and over again. You can't get infinites. Good. And as a result, you want to keep this in mind, generally speaking. So this is really important for when you, like, if ever you're close to a wall, try to convert your combo a little bit into just getting that wall splat. This is critical for characters who can get easy-ass wall splats like Shoto, Dabi, I guess Midoriya to an extent because of a really easy Detroit Smash, and you know, so on. Right, and I guess I should probably mention that again, you can use altered quirks in combos. If you want to see how absolutely obscene charged the charged Detroit Smash is, well, let me show you this. Look at the distance covered. Boom. You saw how long it took for that to happen. That was pretty good. And then whatever you want to do, you can go for a reset. You can go for a damaging super ender. You can do another basic better combo for damage, you know, so on. Your options off of that are really strong. If I were like a particularly good player, I would say that, yeah, no, you should always go for a reset. But really, the options are up to you. It's really your choice. If the opponent you feel is close to death, then just go for a death combo. But I mean, hey, you know, whatever the situation demands. Now, with all of this assembled, we're starting to get some pretty damn decent combos going. So, I'll show him off in a minute, but, well, actually, because he really abuses this one mechanic. But if I were to give any advice for beginner players, try Midoriya first, because he'll really show you, like, the basics of how to use a combo system in this game, like I've been showing you. Tilt, square, or no, sorry, normal, square, normal, into this, and yeah, easy wall spots from mid-screen. UA Gym is pretty average in terms of like the size of these arenas, so I would say this is a pretty good place to test out your characters' like wall splat capabilities. Just keep that in mind going forward. And then once you're comfortable with Midoriya, I would actually recommend All Might. All Might himself has actually pushed me a good bit farther in my combo game, funny enough, because he is an incredibly easy character to use. Actually, I was not expecting that. He's very straightforward. He doesn't require that much execution, and he's really flexible. It allows you to practice like whatever you want in the game. Really, he's a pretty good like practice machine. So yeah, that's what I personally recommend. Right, might as well show him off since I was just talking about him a minute ago. Yeah, no, one of All Might's basic bread and butters is like super fun and uses pretty much everything in the system that I've talked about so far. So what you saw in there was essentially a number of things I was already talking about, you know, converting things into various tilts, using a spike in the middle of the floor. He really abuses the mechanics of this game to a decent effect. His combos are pretty damn strong, actually. Not insanely strong, not the best in the game, but I think he really helps you. If you practice Midoriya, using him is definitely like a step up in terms of like what you can do in terms of like combo practice in this game. So that's why I personally recommend anyway. Well, I guess while I have All Might here, I might as well just go ahead and show off some other things I was going to talk about anyway, because he really shows it off easier. Well, first of all, level 1 enders. Well, actually using super enders in general. So, well, if I were to actually go ahead and get a basic combo going with him, if I didn't use the traditional bread and butter combo with him, just go easy. Doing this, essentially. Or he can just not hit the wall, that's fine too. Yep, Wallsplat. Now, what I can do for a combo ender is actually go for a level 1 super. You've probably been piecing this together for a while now and just wondering why I haven't gone to it. Well, it's because there's a good amount to talk about with it. The supers are really powerful enders. And of course, I'm talking about them in the combo session because we'll talk about extending combos in a minute. But for the most part, yeah, they're really strong ass enders to combos. If we were to push it numbers a little bit more, we can start getting some really strong shit. Like, for example, yes, that was a very fast cancel. Oh yeah, I just took off half his bar, or half his life with, you know, one combo. Just using a level 2. We have not even gone to the extensions yet. That wasn't using, like... Actually, I guess I did use a early wall splat in the ground in this case. But, yeah, he's really good at pushing these numbers. Now, one thing that All Might is especially good at is this little mechanic called stun. Oh god, I have not even talked about the dizzy function in this game yet. This game has a fucking dizzy function. If you're familiar with Street Fighter, dizzy essentially is what happens when you're hit by an opponent enough times that end up stunned. For example, it's very easy. All Might can literally do this in like 2 combos. Like, let me show you. There's the first combo. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so dizzy is this state. If you're hit by your opponent enough times, you end up in this dizzy state where you're completely stunned, you can't do anything. What you can do right now, again, All Might hits the opponent so many damn times. If you get him in 2 combos, boom, dizzy. Pretty much just like instantly. Since you can't use... I sorry, I have the screen paused right now, but... Essentially, since I can't use my spike twice in one combo, as in, you know, the wall splat, what I'm going to do instead is just go for this. And then super early cancel from the tilt triangle into this, into another level 2. Now the problem with doing this, however, granted I am now breaking 50% of his health bar, that seems impressive, but the problem is that the more hits there are in your combo, the more your combo is going to scale, and as a result you're going to see diminishing returns, you know, on level 1 and level 2. So that's why you don't really want to use level 2 at the end of your combos that much. I mean, if your opponent's gonna die, then, you know, do it. Like, if it wins you the round. But if not, you want to be careful because of the damage scaling. Because, you know, you can see the damage scaling down there. 0.04. Yeah, that's kind of high in the damage scaling department. But if that's not an issue for you, then, yeah, you rip it early. It might be for the best, but details. But yeah, this is why level 1s are generally like your bread and butter enders, generally speaking. Generally. So if we start a bread and butter string with All Might again, I'd like to know for a fact that I got this from a very old Globku video. If for his bread and butter combo, if there's been more optimized stuff, I'm unaware of it. I apologize in advance. Tell me about it in the comments. So do this. Super early cancel from the tilt triangle into the super. That's a little more economic for the meter. The meter you are burning. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. So, you know, pick and choose your battles. You can also just, you know, straight up end in EX plus Ultra. If he wins it around, sure, why not go for it? But generally thinking about the long game in terms of your meter burn, put yourself in a better situation to land on a combo, you know, generally speaking, and just work with it. Right, and my last note, using assists in combos. It is not an accident that Bakugo is on my team, although this would be a little bit easier with Shoto, but actually, I'll show you the super easy one. So, Aizawa and Shoto are 2 of the most powerful assists in a game for extending combos, and there's a good reason why I call them out for this, because they do some very dangerous stuff. For example, yeah, he leaves you stunned for that long. So, you've seen roughly what All Might's level 1 looks like. It's this it's this 2-punch where he does this, you know, etc. Nothing too crazy, but the thing here is there's a large window in the middle there where the game is not in a cinematic freeze. You know, the timer is still going, if you could see the timer. So what does this mean? Well, with this, I could essentially chain multiple level 1s into each other. Allow me to explain. So, I'm going to start the first level 1. I haven't practiced this, by the way. Around the middle here, I'm going to engage Aizawa's assist. We start again, use Shoto's assist, and then at the end here, do another level 1 at the end. Why, yes, this is a lot of damage I just did. Thank you for noticing. Yeah, no, but this is a little inconsistent. You don't want to always rely on it. But it is a proof of concept that, yes, you are able to get some severe damage off of these assists if you choose them for your sidekicks. Yeah, they're really damn good. You know, Shoto with the freeze, and Aizawa with the tie down with the tape and everything, or rope. Whatever it's called offhand, I don't remember, cloth, you know, details. So, yes, this is very damn powerful. You can also squeeze these into your regular combos. I will admit, I'm not the most rehearsed in terms of getting these combos down out in the open, but if you were to do some shit with it, it might look something like this. Oops. Yeah, so that's if you want to go with like the burning 3 meters to get all the damage ever route. That was using level 1 and level 2. Level 2 was not too heavily scaled at the end there because it was not that many hits going into it. Although I don't know how assist affects scaling, so you'll have to consult the experts on that one. Now, what I could also do is I could use this to squeeze in multiple, not multiple level 1s. I could squeeze in an extension there with a level 1 in the middle of the combo. So, for example, there we go, that's it. There we go. That was a bad input, but you see what I was going for there. Essentially, you can loop your combo multiple times, and you can use assists to really get easy extensions off of your combos. This would be way easier with Shoto if I wasn't trying to chain my level 1, but trying to do your level 1 off of this super or off of this special is a pain in the ass with All Might. So it took me a while to get that. There we go. That took way longer than I expected it to, but yeah, you essentially do a combo like that. That just sliced off. Well, I mean, look how much life Bakugo is busy. That's like 60% gone right there. Ew, that's juicy. If only it didn't take so much execution to land this fucking linker. So yeah, I guess with that, one last thing I do want to mention is that you can use these assists in the middle of air combos without supers involved whatsoever. Frankly, I'm looking forward to not using his level 1 super for once, so I don't keep missing it. Ugh. Well, it's not the way I intended for it to land, but yeah, that's essentially way of comboing in the with an assist in the middle of one of your strings. Yeah, that took way longer to land than I expected. Probably to do a hit stun, whatever. Anyway, hope you guys have learned a thing or two about My Hero 1's Justice. Yes, this was a very extensive video. I had to cover as many bases as I possibly could for anyone who picks up this game or wants to get into 1's Justice 2. A lot of these core concepts do carry over to 1's Justice 2, but there's a lot that's changed, like damage scaling can carry over to resets, dashing in the middle of combos consumes meter now, you know, etc. There's a lot different, but a lot of these basic ideas do still hold completely true. So if you ever want to consult back to this video for 2, you're probably not going to be doing too terribly off. And yeah, hope you guys learned a thing or two, and I'll catch you in the Let's Play. Peace.